everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode for the Filipino Australian Lawyers Association. And thank you, Consul Ralph, for being our
hmm
fourth guest for this podcast series. The Philippine Consul General is a key stakeholder for the Filipino Australian Lawyers Association and the Filipino community in general. So thank you for being our guest for this podcast episode. The
Yes.
PCG, the Philippine Consulate General in Melbourne,
hmm
holds jurisdiction in three states, as I research in Victoria, South
hmm
Australia, and also Tasmania. So, in this episode, we are going to talk about Ralph's career journey, sharing us the cultural engagement and initiatives of the Consulate General and the possible assistance offered by the Consulate General for the community in some of the prevalent legal issues faced by Filipino Australians here in Australia and specifically Victoria. Before unpacking all that, firstly, Ralph, could you share us more of your background, your school background, your work experiences prior to joining the DFA, and also your motivations to joining the DFA, a Department of Foreign Affairs? Yes.
Okay. I think it's easier to explain my motivation in joining the DFA when you mention my family background because my dad worked for the DFA. Both my parents did actually. My parents were like college sweethearts in Lyceum that took foreign service and entered the DFA.
Mm.
Um, and with that, I was born in Hong Kong. I'm the youngest of three kids, and my brother was born in the Philippines. My elder sister was born in Saudi Arabia, and I was born in Hong Kong.
Mhm.
Um, so even though I was born in Hong Kong, because it's the life of someone from the DFA, we would move around a lot. So I spent
Mm.
good parts of my childhood in the UK and in Japan.
Mhm.
So it's 2009 that I officially entered the department. So I've been with the DFA for around more than 15 years now.
Mhm.
I started in the Middle East desk, uh, you know, doing I handled uh, Israel, Palestine, Iraq, Iran, um, Syria, and Lebanon, and even Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and that was really exciting.
Yeah.
Especially when you're a junior officer handling all those issues, uh, you really feel like you know. Uh, it was a very, very interesting time, and I really enjoyed that part when I first entered. Like geographic work, we call them in the DFA geographic offices. Geographic work is really fulfilling because you really get to focus on the bilateral relations, the bilateral aspect
Mhm.
of your relations with all these countries.
Mhm.
So I was sitting in the desk reading all the reports from our embassies in all of these countries, and helping them out with their requests in Manila and vice versa. And that was a lot of fun. Yeah, so after that, they sent me here
Mhm.
to Melbourne 2 years ago. So I've
Mhm.
been here for around 2 years, 2 months now.
Mhm.
Around 2 years and a month and a half. Yeah,
So how
here in
is that? How
Melbourne.
is the work in Melbourne?
Mm.
Yeah.
Now, the work here is very different because
Mm.
in Brussels, my work was mostly political and
Mm.
economic, and somewhat some a bit of cultural as well. But we only had less than 10,000 Filipinos in uh, Belgium. For my whole 6 years, it was less than 10,000. Like at the beginning, it was like maybe like five,
Mhm.
six. By
Mhm.
the time I left, it was probably still 6,500, maybe seven.
Mhm.
Um, there aren't a lot of Filipinos there.
Mm.
So the work was really, we call it substantive in nature. So it's really about our bilateral relations with Belgium,
Mhm.
Luxembourg, and of course, our overall relations with the European Union and the European Union institutions.
Mhm.
So a day in Brussels was like, one day I'd be in the European Parliament, another day I'd be in, the Belgian Royal Palace, another day I'd be in Luxembourg for something. And there were always so many think tank activities that we're monitoring. It's a big, big, and there's always something in the European Parliament as well. A lot of events, all of it very, focused on, on geopolitics and,
Mm.
economics. A
Mhm.
lot of that. Here in Melbourne, we have the last census counts 95,000 Filipinos of uh, 95,000 residents of Victoria of Filipino descent.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's times, you know, at the very least times 10, more than times 10,
Mhm.
uh, in terms of the number of Filipinos. And the community here, the profile of the community here, as you know, as you've seen, it's every single sector. It's not just one or two particular professions. It's
Mhm.
everything. People
Mhm.
are here doing everything, and the
Mhm.
international students as well. The Filipino international students. This year, I believe it's almost 10,000.
Mhm.
I'll have to double check that number, but I know the figure is very close. We're in the top 10 in terms of the number of international students here in Victoria. So
Mhm.
it's a lot. So our work here is very much community based.
Mhm. Mhm.
We engage with the community. We also do a little bit of engagement with, our host government, with, the Victorian state government, Victorian
Mhm.
parliament. The governor has us as members of the consular corps go to their events as well.
Mhm.
Um, but essentially, the main difference is seeing how, how diverse our Filipino community is here, and ultimately the again I can't stress enough like how the community here is really really
Inclusive,
inclusive. They're also very successful.
collaborative.
It's a
Mhm.
yeah, they're successful, they're collaborative, and the community gets things done. The community is able to achieve so much.
Mhm.
So of course, the major political relations with Australia are handled by the embassy in Canberra.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we oversee, political relations, and we also oversee some of the economic relations as well. As you know, one of the biggest Philippine investments in Australia is here in Victoria.
Mhm.
You're familiar with the Victoria International Container Terminal, right?
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I think
That's
is that affiliated with the in the Philippines, the International Container
ICTSI, yes.
Terminal? Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
And they're not the only Filipino business here. Like Miguelito's just opened downstairs.
I saw
Um,
that.
yeah, like for a minute. So when it comes to looking at the impact of the Philippines here, there's just so much
Mm.
because Filipinos are living here, Filipinos are investing here.
But going forward, as you said, the PCG is heavily involved in the community and also grassroots effort, as you said,
Hmm.
especially with the PCG in Melbourne. Um, could you could you elaborate more about the assistance provided by the consulate, the PCG on services on prevalent legal issues in the community, particularly the services it could help to support international students with
Hmm.
migration and empowering them with employment rights. Yes, firstly, on that type of
Well,
issues.
the migration and employment rights is something that we don't necessarily touch
Yeah.
because, of course, it's up to the Australian government to
Mm,
decide, its own migration policies, and we don't really interfere with that.
mm,
That being said, for international students, we hold twice a year a post-arrival orientation seminar, just
mhm,
so that it helps, just so that first the international students can come in, find a little network,
mhm,
get some advice, because ultimately we don't want them to be, just by themselves.
mm,
We, we do try to reach out to the international students in that regard for that. And of course, our partners in that activity is FASCO,
mhm.
the Student Council of Victoria. They've been a really good partner for that. And thank you, FALAW, for participating in the last PAOS um,
Yeah,
by
I think
providing.
Michelle Martinez, the vice president, went for that event. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So that's something definitely we want our students to be connected to relevant stakeholders in the community
Mhm,
uh, for those things, because a lot of what we do is referral.
mhm,
Of course, if anything, let's knock on wood. Like, we don't want anything bad to happen. But if anything bad happens to Filipino citizens, obviously we also have um, an assistance to national section, and an ATN hotline that people can call in case something really, again, knock on wood, like in
Mhm,
case something bad happens to them, we can, if need be, if they have nowhere else to turn to, we can,
mhm,
help repatriate these people.
mhm,
We can also, help defray some of the costs associated with what got them into trouble or whatnot. Um, but that's, of course, on a case-to-case basis and subject to approval from Manila
mhm,
on how we cover that. But basically, yes, it's a last resort, but the services are available there for the
mhm,
international students, and
mhm,
of course for any Filipino citizen who's not a contract worker. If you're a
mhm,
contract if you're here on a work permit, um, or a work visa, then we're still able to provide assistance, of course. But another avenue of assistance is the Department of Migrant Workers and their migrant workers office in Canberra, which covers all of Australia. And they do things like OEC verifications and the like. Here in the consulate, we also have a consular section that, provides the passports, the visas, the notarials, the fingerprinting of NBI forms, all of those things. Yes, that those services, you can find more details about that on our website, melbournepcg.org.
yeah. Moving forward to another set of issues, can
Mm-hmm.
you tell us more about the services, particularly with the elections coming up, about the voting rights of
Mm-hmm.
Filipino citizens? So, and also, yeah, in that issue, could you address the part?
Okay. Let me just pull up the important
Oh,
dates
mhm,
that I actually just yes. So as you know, for overseas voting, uh, we're now doing it online. Have you voted before overseas? Like, have you voted from here
I'm
before?
Australian citizen. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
did you get your dual citizenship yet?
My parents are thinking of me doing a dual citizenship. Yeah.
Why don't you do it with them?
I would be, I would be inclined to do a
Yes,
dual.
get it. You have
That's
everything
my
to
next
gain.
question. That's my next
Okay.
question. Yeah.
Oh, yes. So, for the enrollment period, because okay, first, before anything, for overseas voting, you have to have registered as an overseas voter yet first. That's the first thing. Register as an overseas voter, and registration for overseas voting to become a registered voter, it's done. That was done like last September. They closed it. It'll open up again maybe in the third or fourth quarter of this year. That being said, we published already on our website, normbc.org, the certified list of overseas voters, or the CLOVI. And if you are part of that CLOVI, there are some people who registered way before, and they're still in the CLOVI of Canberra, and they weren't moved to Melbourne yet, but they're still registered voters. So if you're a registered voter and your name is in the CLOVI, you can uh, enroll your registration online. So you enroll for online voting, and then the links for that, uh, of course, can be seen. I think we've posted the links already. But yes, you can also find it on the Comelec website. Enrollment voting, the enrollment period is from March 20 to May 7. You can enroll as long as you're in the certified list of voters. You can enroll as a voter for the online online voting between March 20 and May 7. And then there's also some test voting. So, they give you some random math so you're familiar with the process of voting. And that happens from March 20 to April 13. But April 13 is April 13 at around 8 a.m., I think, is when the voting period starts here in Australia.
But